My name is Albertina Almeida and I'm a lawyer. Why I chose the profession is a long story, but to cut a long story short, basically I wanted to be in a profession which afforded me some independence, where I would not have to be at the mercy of anyone. At least that's what I thought the legal profession would offer me. And also because I came from a background where my parents were government officers, and I felt that their honesty and sincerity and hard work didn't really pay, and they did not rise in their career because they were at the mercy of pressures of power. So I wanted to be in an independent career. I would say that sometimes I was not taken seriously because I have always been fighting for justice. So people that has been there for a long time at a personal level. So and being involved in various organizations or collectives that were seeking justice. So that identity overpowered my identity as a lawyer. So people would not take me seriously as a lawyer. They would say this is an activist and this is a continuation of our activism. So they didn't, but over time people understood that yes, I'm an activist, yes, I'm concerned about social concerns, but I'm equally serious with my profession. Besides that, I think there is also the other aspect is that, you know, when it comes to the independence, what I would say is that as a lawyer, many times people also have this opinion. I wouldn't say independence, more the perception. They have this perception that a lawyer is a liar. A lawyer is somebody that, you know, that's how even my family perceived it. A lawyer letting someone being a lawyer is like giving someone to the devil. So I had to counter these perceptions as well. People haven't thought so of me, but I do know that a lot of women lawyers and even women judges are, you know, there's lots of statements made behind their backs about how they function and how they've, you know, how they've got where they are. There are a lot of statements, uncalled for statements made. I say that people must assess a person for what she is, okay, not by what their other aspects of life are. And I mean, in terms of how they conduct themselves, if they are in the legal profession or the judiciary, how do they conduct themselves? Do they dispense justice? Are they sincere to their work? Are they competent? And as well as, are they honest and true to the demands of their profession? This is how I say we should assess, because when it comes to a woman, people want to know what is her marital status, what is her relationship with her husband, how does she relate to other people. When you're assessing a male judge, you don't assess it by that criteria. You just say he's so good, he dispenses he passes judgments quickly. You know, people just comment like that, or they say he passes a good judgment or he doesn't pass a good judgment. But when it comes to women, people will look at all these aspects of her life. I mean, in the higher ranks of the judiciary, there have been mostly men. It's only very recently that, for example, women from Goa have been elevated to the post of High Court judges. So slowly things are changing, but indeed there was a dominance of men. But I will not say that women getting to the higher ranks of the judiciary necessarily means sensitivity to women. That is another subject, and that also depends on societal attitudes changing, both among women as well as among men. See, those perceptions, those perceptions are not to do with their capacities and that they cannot do work which is time consuming in terms of capacity. Those are based on their realities, because most people do not have the luxury of housework being shared in the house. So the responsibility of housework is always on women, whether they are lawyers or whether they are judges or whether they are anybody. The proportion of housework is always, housework, childcare is primarily on women. So therefore they are not able to give that kind of time which, for example, a legal profession demands, or being in the judiciary also demands. Because the full day is spent, let's say for a judge, the full day she's listening to cases, etc. She has to write up her judgments. She has to, so similarly with a lawyer, you attend cases, then you have to attend clients, you have to read to be updated, you have to you have to do some research, you have to do your drafting. So there's that kind of time required. I would say that I have tried to find a kind of balance, because I have made it very clear that to clients that this is the time when I will meet them, and they can't meet me early morning or late at night and assume that just because I am sensitive and empathetic that I can be contacted at any time. This is my time for you, and if you want me to do justice to you, I can do justice if I have some peace of mind and some possibility to relax and recharge myself after the time, after my work time. So this is how I explain this to my clients, that I need to take care of myself. I have responsibilities. Each of us has responsibilities. I also have responsibilities. I would say that basically my involvement on gender concerns began primarily with a particular experience that I had, and that was about I was volunteering as a student, and there was a difference made between the male volunteers and the female and me as a female volunteer. So that was like for me the starting point of my own experience of discrimination, so in terms of various kinds of facilities available as a volunteer. So I mean for me that was the thing that triggered my involvement in gender concerns. I have always been concerned about human rights, always, as in that also goes back to an experience of my own mother during the emergency, when she was suspended, taking advantage of the emergency, because she would refuse to yield to the wheel of corruption. So and then not only she, there were a couple of others who were harassed as well, and they ranged from various positions, from class 1 positions to class 2 positions to class 4 positions in government service. So the ones in class 4 position were not sometimes able to draft a representation, etc. So I used to, in those days, help in drafting them, and I was appalled by the kind of treatment they got just because an emergency is imposed. So it's that sort of. And the client doesn't know anything, in terms of procedures, systems, nothing. So you have to explain to the client, because the client needs to know what is the scope. Because law by itself also cannot achieve everything. Law is one facet of life, and of course, but it does pervade every area in many ways. But they need to know, okay, this is what the law can provide for. There are some things that they may be asking, like for example, that the husband is neglecting them, in terms of affection, etc. Then I have to explain that the law doesn't provide, you cannot get that back through the law. So that's another area. But what can the law do? But instead, there are these things that the law can provide for. So then it does become a process of explaining about the law with each client. Sometimes the clients are also fully aware. I have been a part of that organization for about 20 years. But I've moved on. I've moved on into this gender resource group, and at one level, and also have been part of an organization called Citizens Initiatives for Communal Harmony.
What it is?
Which was basically an organization that was formed after the Kurchure Savarde Kurchure riots.
Okay.
Because we realized that the implications of such a thing, if it spreads all over Goa, and if the crisis of communalism deepens, then it's bad for most people in Goa. No, that's precisely the problem. They are not drawing from whatever religious, even whether it's religious prescriptions or whether it is spiritual experiences or whether it is atheist experiences. I don't make a difference between any of them. But the problem is people are not drawing from the experiences that the documents talk about, the religious documents talk about, or whether it's the scriptures, or like say the Bible or whatever. The problem is they are putting a woman on a pedestal. So the other side of putting somebody on a pedestal is to suppress that person. So there are two sides of the same coin. When you put somebody on a pedestal, you can also suppress that person, because you have the power to put that person on a pedestal. Instead of that, one has to draw from the life, the kind of stories that the teachings are trying to teach. If it's Mary, what was her life about? What was she standing up for? But it's always the interpretations are given by male theologians, male religious leaders, who try to give interpretations of how a woman is expected to be submissive, and religion says so. That's the problem. So I think that as far as these things are concerned, the issues are not like about whether somebody practices religion or does not practice. The issues are with the interpretations of religion to suit male dominance. I think it has its roots in the conditioning that is there in the family. The male is encouraged to be tough, macho, and you say that an ideal man is someone with those muscles and a particular thing, and a woman is like someone who's like that, very coy, petite, etc. So then whoever doesn't fit into those images faces a beating, because there is a stereotype. Now these stereotypes, we fail to realize that these stereotypes are formed by these certain commercial, certain corporates who want to sell their products to that size, to that particular thing, and they want to sell their services and their products. So what happens is that, then the person feels deficient. So somebody who is not like say a Hrithik Roshan, or some having six packs or whatever you call it, I don't know those expressions. That person then begins to feel he's also a human being, different. There are people come in different shapes and sizes, but that person begins to feel inferior, and then that person feels compelled to show how he is better, and then he feels, and the society conditions you that you are superior if you can conquer a woman, not if you can be on par with women, but if you can conquer a woman. So these concepts are perpetrated at every level, in the education system, in the family, in the society, and then so this is where this gender consciousness has to come about. There needs to be, even at the school level. Today we have sex education or sexuality education also in some schools, but we still do not have gender consciousness. That is still to come. They do not understand. You have environment clubs, you have some other club, but you don't have a gender consciousness education effort. I think the anger is there. The anger comes from different sources. Sometimes people have personal experiences within the family Sometimes people have experiences of sexual harassment. Other times people face experiences of like a rural woman might face discrimination in the sense that she has to walk longer distances to fetch water because water is mined extensively from the nearby wells. So the kinds of issues and the anger, the base of the anger is different for different sections of women. Or sometimes it might be a domestic worker who is exploited by her employer. So the experiences may be different, but that anger is there, yes. And it's important that the anger, not always that anger is directed towards bringing about change. Sometimes the anger gets diffused into more anger and self torture, which is problematic, I think, and that is what we have always to look out for. The thing is that there is a problem with how women empowerment is not like me giving you power. Women empowerment is something that I have to, as my responsibility, enable a woman to find her own power and be powerful. To enable her doesn't mean only saying, okay, you can stand up for your rights, this is the law. But to enable her also means looking at social, economic, political circumstances that will enable her to stand up. Today, is it possible so easily for, let's say, a Muslim woman to stand up? There are pressures. Is it possible for a Christian woman to stand up? There are pressures because at one level, the dominant majority, there is a dominant community, which I mean, it's not the community really, the people in the community, but there is a certain dominant fascist ideology that's prevailing. As a result of which, if the woman stands up, it is seen that she's kind of betraying her community. So she is caught because she has an obligation to her community, but she also wants her own rights and freedom. But in the face of this dominant power, she doesn't know how to. It becomes difficult for a woman. There's a big dilemma. It can be brought at, I mean, as I said, it's a process, and it's not about one person. It's about a system where at the education system level, at various levels, because there are various religious fora, there are youth clubs, there are various these people are being marshaled into becoming the camps for some macho leaders who want to throw their power. Instead of that, it needs to be a power with, not a power over. It has to be a power with, where all these places need to be foras, these clubs, these schools, various institutions need to be mediums through which certain gender consciousness is created, and also then you need to have the enabling systems by way of education, law, etc. Well, I would say that for me, the last person, ideally, that is what would be my vision. That the last person that we see, who's the most disadvantaged, must be able to begin at least to have a spark of hope, to be able somewhere a light at the end of the tunnel, to be able to stand up, to be able to live a life of dignity and equity.